Well, welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I hope everyone's doing great today. I've been working on getting my second book redone. It's going to be a revision. It's going to be more things that I had failed to put in there. It's going to have some corrections in there as well. Um, Without further ado, we're going to get on with this. Make sure to have Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall fear one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he was drowned in the depth of the sea. Matthew 18, verse 10. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. That is in Colossians 3:21. In Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take out the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips and balance in favor of fair use. I think we need to be sure to get the word out. May not be able to talk very much longer with you or chat with you on the line or listen. All right, well, that sounds okay. Eric, thanks for coming. Appreciate you. Welcome, everybody that are here. So, since I am redoing my book, I said, well, we're going to start at the nitty gritty of child abuse awareness. What is child abuse and neglect? Without further ado, I will go ahead and start. Hope everyone's staying safe with the weather how it is. Hey there, Jackie. Good to see you, girl. Hope you're doing great. This is right here. This is from the National Child Abuse Coalition.org. I'm taking these things from different sites because it's important to get as much information out there as possible. Child abuse and neglect hurt children in our country. Child abuse and neglect are common. At least 1 in 7 children have experienced child abuse or neglect in the past year. Some, but not all, of these children enter foster care. In 2019, 1,840 children in the United States died of abuse and neglect, which we know it's a lot more numbers now. You see all these cases online, and it's devastating. How can these parents do these sort of things? Child abuse and whoever's doing it, not just the parents, but there's other people that's doing this as well. Child abuse and neglect are considered adverse childhood experiences, which can dramatically impact a person's life experience and their health. Poverty is associated with increased rates of child abuse and neglect. Providing simple supports to families such as in-home and other supportive services, as well as concrete and economic supports and powerful interventions for preventing child abuse and neglect. Well, let me tell you here, it ain't just about poverty. There's rich people who abuse their children. There's rich people that neglect. And poverty, there's all genders of life where this happens to. It's not just affect poor people, rich people. It affects so many others. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you, Jackie. Child maltreatment is costly. In the United States, the total lifetime economic burden associated with child abuse and neglect was approximately 428 billion in 2015. This economic burden is on par with that of other public health issues such as type 2 diabetes. Child abuse and neglect are preventable. The CDC has identified 5 evidence based strategies for preventing and treating child abuse and neglect. I'll make this bigger so you're able to see it better, maybe. One is strengthen economic support to family by strengthening household financial security and implementing family friendly policies. Change social norms to support parents and positive parenting through public engagement campaigns and legislative approaches to reduce corporal punishment. Excuse me? Provide quality care and education early in life through preschool enrichment programs with family engagement and high quality child care through licensing and accreditation. Accreditation, sorry, accreditation. It's got to be accredited college that you go to because you want to be able to go to other colleges afterwards. Enhance parenting skills to promote healthy skill development through interventions such as home visiting and parent skill building approaches. Intervene to lessen harms and prevent future risks through enhanced primary care, behavioral parent training programs, treatment to lessen harms of abuse and neglect, exposure and treatment to prevent problem behavior and later involvement violence. Well, I got a lot to say about this list. I don't agree wholeheartedly with this list because the fact is, when police had known on numerous occasions, a lot of times the police have done nothing. Social services has done nothing in a lot of instances. There's so much wrong with our system that when they even know about it, like for instance, I'm going to give y'all for instance, even though on my story there's several different occasions, okay? Like one occasion, when a car went by and it backfired. All of a sudden, because my dad used to shoot at me with a gun, I all of a sudden I went and had PTSD or something, and I went to another state and I ran out of the school, and they had to look for me on different occasions. Well, when they brought me to the school, when they were finally tired of it, they ended up calling the sheriff, and the sheriff came back and had my siblings had told him that Dad shot at me. I remember snapping out of it when the sheriff was driving up our long driveway and Dad was there. And Dad said, no. And these bruises and everything all over her body, that's where she fell into the blackberry bush. Well, the sheriff looked over there at me and he threatened me, said, if I ever hear you talk about this or try to say that they did anything to you, we're going to do something to you. We will not prosecute them. We will prosecute you. So there's, they had to, they seen the bruises and everything, but they didn't further it up. Instead, I was the one blamed. Okay. It's a miracle I survived in itself. And there's been other instances, with police involved and they did nothing. And like, when I was in high school, the principal called me to the office and I did not know what I had done wrong. Years later, I called him and asked him, I said, why did you have me in your office back for the week for an hour at a time for a week? He said, well, we knew you were being abused. And I said, do what? I said, why couldn't y'all do anything about it? Oh, because we needed you to talk. I was like, but I was too afraid to talk. If I would have talked, I would have had to go back home to those people that were abusing me in the meantime. They said, no, we had you a place picked out. What's wrong with the system where they already knew about it, already had a place picked out to take me for safety, but could do nothing because I was too afraid to talk? Kids, we get too afraid to talk. We're so conditioned. Y'all see that in a lot of instances as well, when you get too afraid to talk. But there's got to be more done. You can't just go and say, can y'all hear me okay? Yes. Okay, I had to check it on my YouTube right here. Let's see. The CDC defines child abuse and neglect, also referred to generally as child maltreatment, as any act or series of acts of commission or omission by a parent or other caregiver, clergy, coach, teacher that results in harm, potential harm, or threat of harm to a child. Federal law creates a minimum definition of child abuse and neglect, but gives states the authority to define what constitutes child abuse and neglect in their jurisdictions. Thank you, Jackie. The Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, CAPTA, requires that a minimum states define child abuse and neglect to mean any recent act or failure to act on the part of a parent or caretaker which results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse or exploitation, or an act or failure to act which presents an imminent risk of serious harm. State laws provide much greater detail. A summary of state definitions for child abuse and neglect can be found here. Child Welfare Information Gateway, sorry, also has a searchable database for state statutes to access state specific definitions. Okay, I want to go and show you this right here. It says, are you required? Are you a mandated reporter? So I thought it's rather interesting. And I think in Tennessee, basically everyone's a mandated reporter if you know something. So here's Alabama right here. For instance, let me give you Alabama's mandated report laws. And this is at mandatedreporter.com backslash child abuse. So it says by this citation Alabama code, reports are required from all the following: hospitals, clinics, sanitariums, doctors, physicians, surgeons, medical examiners, coroners, dentists, osteopaths, optometrists, chiropractors, podiatrists, pharmacists, physical therapists, and nurses. Public and private K through 12 employees, teachers, and school officials. Peace officers and law enforcement officials, social workers, daycare workers, or employees. And see, that was Alabama where it happened to me, okay? But why could they not just go ahead and get me out of there, right? Okay, daycare workers or employees, mental health professionals, employees of public and private institutions of post secondary and higher educations, members of the clergy, and any other person called upon to render aid or medical assistance to a child. And it says Code of Alabama that provides for the mandatory and permissive reporting of child abuse and neglect to a duly constituted authority, primarily the Department of Human Resources and Law Enforcement, when any person suspects children are being abused or neglected. Yeah, just don't go tell a fellow person, report it. Now, I want to show you the difference here when we go into Tennessee, though, right? For the mandated reporter. Okay, right here, who is required to report. Persons required to report include physicians, osteopaths, medical examiners, chiropractors, nurses, hospital personnel, and other health or mental health professionals, teachers, other school officials or personnel or daycare center workers, other professional child care, foster care, residential or institutional workers, social workers, practitioners who rely solely on spiritual means for healing, judges or law enforcement officers, neighbors, relatives, or friends. So this goes more in depth, right? So basically, anybody who sees authority figures at community facilities, including any facility used for recreation or social assemblies or for educational, religious, social, health, or welfare purposes, including but not limited to facilities operated by schools, the Boy or Girl Scouts, the YMCA or YWCA, the Boys and Girls Club, or church or religious organizations, or and other persons. See? Why is Alabama not making all these other people mandatory reporters? There's probably other states in here as well. That's sickening and saddening. So let me close that one out. Close that one out. So here's some facts about child abuse right here. Approximately 5 children die every day because of child abuse. 1 out of 3 girls and 1 out of 5 boys will be sexually abused before they reach age 18. And of course, the right number are is not available because a lot of these reports are underreported. They, like I said, they didn't even report me. 90% of child sexual abuse victims know the perpetrator in some way. 68% are abused by a family member. Most children become victims of abuse and neglect at 18 months or younger. In 2010, 1,537 children died of abuse or neglect. 79.4% were under the age of 4, and 47.7% were under the age of 1. Plus, the numbers got to be higher because there are so many missing kids. We know the numbers got to be a lot higher. And sometimes they'll say, oh, it was an accident. So they get accident when it really wasn't an accident. Boys, 48.5%, and girls, 51.2%, become victims at nearly the same rate. 3.6 million cases of child abuse are reported every year in the United States. Abused and neglected children are 11 times more likely to engage in criminal behavior as an adult. About 80% of 21-year-olds who were abused as children met criteria for at least one psychological disorder. 14% of all men and 36% of all women in prison were abused as children. I wouldn't. I would think that a lot of times they might not say that they were abused when they were. Some of them ain't gonna come right there and start talking about that stuff. For every incident of child abuse or neglect that's reported, an estimated 2 incidences go underreported. So for every incident it's doubled that is not reported. Child abuse occurs across all socioeconomic levels, ethnic and cultural lines, and religions and education levels. Neglect, the most widespread form of child abuse, makes up more than 59% of abuse cases. Y'all hear about the cases where some of these mothers are going out of state and abandon their children in their home, even newborns? That's pathetic. Here's child abuse and neglect AAP policy explained. John Sterling, MD, FAAP, and Amy Gabriel, MD, MCSI, FAAP. This is healthychildren.org. That's where I got this information from. The thought of anyone harming your child may seem unbearable, but at least 500,000 children across the U.S. endure some form of neglect or abuse every year. These experiences can cause lifelong health problems, making child maltreatment an issue no parent can ignore. Though you may find it hard to even consider your child being hurt in this way, learning more about the risk and warning signs will benefit your whole family. Here's what you need to know about child maltreatment: what might cause it, the lasting harm it can do to kids, and what steps you can take to protect your child. The roots of abuse and neglect and what can help prevent it. In our clinical report on preventing child maltreatment, the American Academy of Pediatric focuses, focuses on relational health, the safe, stable, nurtured relationships that support a child's growth and development. Why is relational health important? I think we all understand that, but it's going to come with the gist of it right here. Kids grow up in families. Uh-oh, it went over there. Okay. Kids grow up in families, and in turn, families are part of a larger community that responds to the values and pressures in society. This means the risk and the answers for child abuse and neglect are interwoven with family, community, culture, and much more. A network of caring relationships can help families cope with the worst times using the best possible tools, reducing the chances that any child will suffer from abuse or neglect. For example, families can help protect children by dealing with stress and setbacks in healthy ways. That means you can communicate with it. Do not yell at your kids. Do not argue with your kids. Do not tell them you do not believe them. Be there for them. Comfort them. Don't force them to talk when they're not ready yet. A lot of things, you don't, the kids are already going through a lot of pressure. Horrendous, devastating. Foster relationships that help them cope with challenges. Yes, by helping them where they can grow in a right way. I tell you what, God, knowing the Bible, studying God's Word is what helped me cope with the challenges. Knowing the basics of parenting and child development. Making sure kids have safe places to live and healthy food to eat. Not just hot dogs, people, and pizza, but actually healthy food to eat as well. Seeking out trustworthy sources of child care, medical care, and transportation. Helping kids to learn to handle difficult feelings and tell difficult truths. You gotta make sure you tell your kids that you will be for them, that you will listen to them. I see so many parents online and everything videos that says, "Get away from me, go do something." The kid comes up to him, "Go do something." What if the kid has something very important that they're trying to tell you, and yet you're shirking them off, telling them to go back outside or whatever? They're showing the kid that they don't matter. Staying close to family, friends, neighbors, teachers, and others who can provide all around support. I always taught my kids so that you could come to me with anything. And boy, did they did. Sometimes mama's face was blushing with some of the things that they would tell me. Overcoming challenges to building resilience. Factors beyond a family's control can make it harder for them to build this kind of resilience. For example, when parents have money troubles, they may find homes or apartments in safer neighborhoods are too expensive. Healthy food, safe childcare, and affordable medical treatment can be hard to find in many areas in the U.S., even for families with good income. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes they might not be able to afford the healthy foods, and at least they're feeding them. They're taking care of them. They're giving a roof over their head, giving them baths. They're even feeding them like hot dogs, macaroni and cheese, and that kind of stuff. But since what they got, they're not starving their children, right? You do the best you can. Past life experiences also shape the way parents act in the present. Those who grew up with violence, trauma, and neglect may find themselves caught in the same patterns they knew as children. It can be hard to build positive parenting skills when your family legacy is filled with fears that never healed. One thing that helped me, guys, is, when I was guess 11, 12-year old, I was standing beside some railroad tracks, and all of a sudden I was daydreaming. And I thought, I'm never going to treat my kids the way I was treated. When I have kids, I'm going to listen to them. So I think that's possibly what helped me out when I started thinking about it at the early age. Like, I don't like how this is done to me. I do not want to ever inflict it on another person. The lasting health effects of child abuse and neglect. Decades of research have linked child maltreatment with poor adult health. Abuse and neglect can cause immediate damage to a child's brain, literally changing the way they think and learn. Y'all see that? Abuse and neglect can cause immediate damage to a child's brain. Yes, it can be, like I had traumatic brain injuries from being hit in the head, so yes. Also, the wiring in the brain, all different kind of different ways, the way they perceive the world is cruel, and so many different ways it can affect the brain. Kids who suffer from abuse and neglect may face higher lifetime risk for mental health struggles such as depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. Chronic pain affecting the back, abdomen, stomach, face, chest, and other areas. Gut health problems such as irritable bowel syndrome, diarrhea, and constipation. Disordered eating such as bulimia and anorexia. Unhealthy sleep, heart and lung disease, and obesity. Man, okay, yes, I had clinical depression, PTSD. I tried to use alcohol as a means to try to forget, but no matter how much I drank, I still remembered. So the alcohol did not work for me. I tried to null it out with weed before as a young adult, but that didn't help either. So it's like none of that really worked for me. So people try to different things that's gonna try to help them. I do have chronic back pain. I do have stomach, abdomen, other areas too. I do have gut problems. I had about used to have anorexia for a little while because I was always told that I was a fat twin, and so that was a problem. Unhealthy sleep, heart and lung disease. So I've got restrictive lung disease now. Okay. I'm sorry about this. Keep moving around over there, you know. Okay. So it's a learning how healthy relationships work. Children who are maltreated may not learn how healthy relationships work, making it hard for them to find love and support later in life. Unless they have the resources to overcome their abuse, victims may later abuse or neglect their own spouses, children, family members, or friends. Like, for instance, I have a sister who I no longer talk with, okay? And her way of disciplining her kids was fist fighting them. I'm not kidding y'all. She didn't use a belt and that kind of stuff that I know of, but she literally went out and fist fought. So what does that tell a kid? To get your own way, if you beat mom, you know, the only way to I could get away with it is beating her back. That's not discipline. There is abuse, neglect, teaches that you could get anything with violence. It was sad to say one of her children ended up raping a girl later on, and he had to be in jail for it. That's the repercussions of what she had done. Because she was teaching him that the only way to get what you want is through force. That is not good. How common is, okay, let's see. Children who are maltreated may not learn how healthy relationships work, like I said. Okay, how common is child maltreatment? Findings reported by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services show that in 2022, about 7.5 billion kids were identified as possible victims of maltreatment. And now remember, there was also COVID, and so a lot of these kids were not checked on or nothing. So I'm sure that there's a lot more out there. There's no way to really estimate Of these cases, 3 million led to investigations or other responses. Okay, let's say about 7.5 million were identified as possible victims of maltreatment, but it did not lead to any investigations. Say what? Nearly 559,000 children were confirmed as victims of abuse or neglect. Around 1,990 children died in cases of maltreatment. Shocking as they are, these numbers may not tell the whole story, since many cases of abuse and neglect are never reported. Parents and other adults may be afraid to come forward because they fear what will happen when they report what has happened. Many feel guilty, even if they didn't directly harm their child. The many forms of child maltreatment. Each state has different ways of defining maltreatment, but all are guided by federal laws such as the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, which is CAPTA. This law defines maltreatment as any recent act or failure to act that leads to a child's death or to serious physical or emotional harm, sexual abuse, or exploitation. Here are the examples of how this might look. The physical abuse happens when a child's body is hit, kicked, shaken, burned, or otherwise harmed. In 2022, around 17% of all young victims were physically abused, the HHS reports. The sexual abuse means any sexual activity a child cannot understand or consent to. This may include touching, oral sex, or genital or anal penetration. Children can also suffer sexual harm through exhibitionism, voyeurism, or exposure to pornography, including being forced to take part in created images or videos or sexual acts. In 2022, almost 11% of all children mistreated in the U.S. experienced some form of sexual abuse, which I know you all know that I was forced into child pornography. My own parents did that to me. Um, child sex trafficked as well. I was also had genital mutilation by my daddy when I was 4, and I put that in the new book, the revised edition. I do have it in there now. So when it gets published soon, then y'all be able to see that out there. Um, I've got other friends that are male as well who have experienced somebody exhibitionism, showing them pictures of themselves, somebody naked, and it was apparent to the child at the time. And this is not the child's fault. This is the mother's fault in doing this, or whatever, whoever it was that did this. Also, I had an uncle that showed me some nudity things as well, and I was really dismayed with that. Psychological or emotional abuse. Psychological or emotional abuse can involve any form of maltreatment described above, but it may also mean verbal abuse. This happens when a child faces constant criticism, ridicule, blame, or shame from parents or other adults. Around 7% of all child abuse victims in 2022 suffered this kind of abuse. Well, I got a twin sister, all right? And so people like to compare us, the smart twin, the dumb twin, the fat twin, the skinny twin, all that, and it has affected us in many ways. Even though at times I was the one getting the positive feedback and the comparison, I still hated it because I felt sorry for them doing that, comparing us. That is so wrong. And then knocking her down. Neglect can take many forms. HHS figures for 2022 suggest that nearly 75% of all children involved in maltreatment cases face some form of neglect, such as physical neglect, failure to provide food, clothing, shelter, and other essentials that keep kids healthy and safe. Emotional neglect, lack of love, comfort, affection, and support to help children feel secure in the world. Medical neglect, lack of regular checkups or immediate care when kids are sick or hurt. Educational neglect, failure to offer regular schooling, whether in a public or private setting or through homeschooling that prepares kids for college or careers. Supervisory neglect, failure to keep an eye on children and safeguard them for dangers at home, school, or in the community. Why you may not know right away when your child experiences abuse. Parents often think they will immediately know if the child has been abused, but often the signs stay hidden. Kids may be afraid to tell anyone about it because they worry about being blamed or actively being believed. They actively believe they cause abuse. The abuser has threatened them in some way. They know and maybe even feel close to their abuser and don't want to hurt them. They think no one will believe them or help them. Babies and children under 5 years old, who make up nearly 40% of maltreated kids, may not have the words to explain what happened to them, making it difficult or even impossible for them to ask for help. When you're born into something like that, that's all you see and that's all you know a good deal of the time. And you learn and you were groomed to remain silent. You learned you not to cry. The children were to be seen and not heard. Okay, from personal experience, I know a lot of y'all that's lived in that time understands what I'm saying because that's what parents would say. Children are to be seen but not heard. So it's like, what? How do you go about telling when you finally can? How do you go about that? Your children matter, guys. Even other people's children matter. Signs that might mean a child has been maltreated. Below is a list of possible signs that a child has experienced abuse or neglect. Keep in mind that, by themselves, these signs do not prove a child has been harmed. Instead, they suggest that parents should keep a watchful eye out and contact their child's doctor if they sense something is wrong. Physical signs: injuries in infants who can't crawl or walk yet. In children under 4 years old, bruises on the torso, ears, or neck. Bruises, cuts, and burns that don't make sense based on what adults say about the possible causes. Failure to gain weight or sudden dramatic weight gain. Pain, bleeding, or discharge from the child's sexual organs. Testing positive for sexually transmitted disease. Head and body aches that don't seem to be linked with a physical cause. The behavioral and emotional signs: keep in mind that these symptoms may mean that your child is facing some other form of stress that has nothing to do with abuse or neglect. However, you should contact your child's doctor if these signs start to interfere with your child's everyday life. Nightmares or new or unusual fears they can't put aside. Signs of depression or anxiety. Bedwetting that comes on suddenly or reversal of toilet training. Attempts to run away from home. Sexual talk or actions that seem inappropriate for your child's age. Sudden drop in self confidence. Struggles in school, sports, or community activities. Passive or aggressive behavior that seems unusual for your child. Craving love and attention or withdrawn into their own world. Big appetite, often to the point of stealing and hiding food. How to manage your own fears and get help for your child. If you're struggling, realize that your child needs you to protect them. In fact, you may be the only one who could help them through this. Their lifelong health is at stake, so you'll need to show courage and resolve in finding care for your child and possibly for yourself. Get medical help if your child's life is in danger, for example. They can't breathe, or there are broken bones, or heavy bleeding. Go to the nearest emergency room. If your child is medically stable but shows signs of maltreatment, call their doctor to book an urgent visit. Prepare yourself to answer lots of questions. State laws generally require doctors, teachers, child care workers, and others who work with kids to report suspected abuse. This may lead to an investigation that can feel stressful and troubling. The questions asked may seem to suggest you are the cause of your child's suffering. Keep in mind that since most abuse and neglect cases involve people that kids already know, child protective officials must ask about every part of their child's life. This includes what happens at home. Do your best to answer honestly without taking these questions personally. Remind yourself that you are doing the hard work of protecting your child from further harm. Know that you are not alone. No matter what happened to your child, there are helpful resources for you and your family. Your child's doctor can recommend local support groups, courses, and online information to help you gain perspective. If you need specialized support, including classes to strengthen your parenting skills, your pediatrician can point you in the right direction. Counselors, therapists, and fellow parents can provide the caring network you need, especially if you yourself are a survivor of abuse or neglect. Remember that kids who get help early can survive and even thrive. Children whose parents, caregivers, or guardians act quickly when they suspect abuse will feel seen and supported. It may take time and intensive treatment to help your child feel safe again, but you are giving them the best possible chance to heal and live a long, healthy life. How a child abuse pediatrician can help. Since kids in virtually every community can suffer maltreatment, some pediatricians specialize in child abuse prevention. These doctors study risk and triggers for abuse and neglect, including the daily stresses that millions of families face. They are well qualified to help parents, caregivers, guardians, and families deal with the effects of abuse and put strategies in place to ensure that children feel protected and loved. Your pediatrician may know a CAP in your area who can join your child's care team. To learn more about CAPs and the services they provide, it says explore the article. There was an instance where one Christmas, my oldest son, me and my husband was in the bed, and it was Christmas morning, and my kids were knocking on the door, said, "Mama, one of them said I don't feel so good," and I said, went to try to get up. My husband held me down. Don't go in there. They'll be all right. I'm like, he's having health issues. He said he's having trouble breathing. No, lay back down, and he held me down. I kept fighting. Finally, I got up, went in there, and he was having an allergic reaction. So I had taken some kind of medications because, of course, for the things that happened to me, so I couldn't drive until I woke up to the really good, because I was still under the influence of some of the medications. So I tried to get him to take him to the hospital. He was refusing, so I said, "Well, I'm going to call 911." So then, reluctantly, he went ahead and got dressed, went to the hospital. He went to the furthest hospital away, drove slowly. He did not rush. He got to the hospital, and the doctor told him if he would have got there like 5 minutes later, my son would be dead. He was having an allergic reaction to Brazil nuts. Then my son became afraid to eat any foods. He would not eat burgers. He would not eat uh, hardly anything because he didn't know what he was allergic to that caused this problem. So then I had to keep taking him back and forth to the doctor and try to figure out what's going on. And they told me give him the certain drink. So he had to drink that, like the elderly drinks, to keep their health going. But he's lost a lot of weight and all. And finally, the doctor agreed to do an allergy testing. And when he did that and told my son what he was allergic to, then his health got better and he started eating again because he knew what to stay away from. But it took them a long time to go ahead and try to get that done. It's like they were not wanting to do an allergy test on him for a while. And I was like, but his life's at stake. He's not eating, he's not getting enough nutrition. And sometimes we as parents, we got to be more adamant about our child's care. Five things to remember about child maltreatment. Child maltreatment is a serious threat to your child's health now and throughout life. National statistics may underestimate the impact of abuse and neglect, partly because adults fear what will happen if they disclose what they see. Even though you may feel very reluctant to face a situation, your child is counting on you to keep them safe. Report all signs of possible abuse or neglect to your child's doctor or another medical professional. Trust that even though this experience will be stressful for anyone, you are doing the right thing for your child. Another time we're going to go on the sex abuse and prevention movement here is for child physical abuse. Child physical abuse is a serious problem. Here are some facts. Most children are abused at home or by someone they know. Some children are abused by parents who are afraid get it a little bit lower font and are afraid of them, so they do not tell anyone. Child abuse can happen to a child of any race, religion, or economic status. Just as I said a while ago, because I said poor earlier, you know? But I'm saying it can happen on any economic status. Other types of child abuse are neglect and emotional abuse, sexual abuse, shaken baby syndrome. Child physical abuse. Child physical abuse is when a person physically hurts a child. The abuse is not an accident. Here are some examples of child physical abuse: hitting and beating a child, hitting a child with an object such as a belt or stick, kicking a child, burning a child with hot water, a cigarette, or an iron, holding a child underwater, tying up a child, severely shaking a child, when they're even biting a child. Have you heard some of the parents that actually bitten their children too? And there were some little incidents we get your child to quit biting so much and you just barely bite them a little bit on a finger or something, but not leave no bite marks. You know what I'm saying? That's the old country ways of doing that. Symptoms, signs of physical abuse is in a child include sudden change in behavior or school performance, alertness, watching or something bad to happen, acting out behavior. That's what I keep telling a lot of people. I'm always watching for something bad to happen. I guess that's still the repercussion, right? Leaving home early, going home late, and not wanting to go home. Fear when approached by adults. Other signs include unexplained injuries or a strange explanation of injuries, such as black eyes, broken bones that cannot be explained. For example, infants who do not crawl or walk usually do not get broken bones. Bruise marks shaped like hands, fingers, or objects such as a belt. Bruises that cannot be explained by usual child activities. Bulging fontanelle, which is soft spot or separated sutures in an infant's skull. Burn marks, such as cigarette burns. Choke marks around the neck. Circular marks around the wrist or ankle from twisting or being tied up. Human bite marks, here we go. Lash marks, unexplained, unconscious in an infant, unconsciousness in an infant. Your lash marks, you get switches, whips, all different kind of stuff, belt, lash marks. Lash marks, some people have told me that they even got beat with broom handles and stuff by their parents. Warning signs that an adult may be abusing a child. Cannot explain or give strange explanations for a child's injuries. Talks about the child in a negative way. Uses harsh discipline. Was abused as a child. Alcohol or drug problems. Emotional problems or mental illness. High stress. Does not look after the child's hygiene or care, does not seem to love or have concern for the child. There's several people that are missing kids who we keep praying for, and it's like a lot of these things fit into that criteria right there. No, not without mentioning names. I think y'all understand who I'm talking about. Treatment. Help an abused child. Learn about the signs of child abuse. Recognize when a child might be abused. Get early help for abused children. If you think a child is being abused, contact a health care provider, the police, or child protective services in your city, county, or state. There, well, I was about to say that, but here it is right here. You can also call Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800 for a child. I'll say that again, 1-800 for a child, which is 1-800-422-4453. Crisis counselors are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Interpreters are available to help in 170 languages. The counselor on the phone can help you figure out what steps to take. All calls are anonymous and confidential. I'm going to copy that and get them here and try to make sure. Yeah, Crohn's disease. Hey there. Hey, sis. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, Crohn's disease with a perm. Oh, yeah. Thoughts and prayers for you, girl. I'm going to go ahead and put this banner up right here, right quick, create a banner. Okay. It's so good to see you, Sheila. Miss you, love you. I'm going to make this sure this is scrolling at the bottom of the page. Okay. It says, even though you may feel reluctant to face a situation, your child is counting on you. Report all signs of possible abuse or neglect to your child's doctor or medical professional. Okay, so let's get further over here. Getting help for the child and family. The child may need treatment and counseling. Abused children can be seriously hurt. Children may also have emotional problems. Counseling and support groups are available for children and for abusive parents who want to get help. There are state and other government departments or agencies. Make sure you give Sheila hearts, y'all. She's a good girl. She's sticking up for what's going on in her life and stuff. One day she'll be able to come and share her story sometime. Child protection agencies usually decides whether the child should go into foster care or can return home. Child protective agencies generally make every effort to reunite families when possible. The system varies from state to state, but usually involves a family court or a court that handles child abuse cases. Alternative names, which is battered child syndrome, physical abuse children. So let's go to this part over here where I was preventing child sexual abuse, what parents need to know. The idea that any adult would sexually abuse a child is terrifying, especially for parents and caregivers. But like any risk our children might face, we need to be able to empower them with information that will help them recognize unsafe situations. We also need to know how to respond to these situations as they occur. Sexual abuse is a particularly difficult issue for caregivers since there usually are no outward, easily noticed signs of the abuse. And like for instance, you go to these people high in power. It could be ministers, it could be teachers, it could be law enforcement, and they do nothing. They do nothing, but instead they stop the people. They do not go and protect the children. And I know people, plenty that's been adults that understand what I'm saying there. They don't go and they try to help. Instead, may even lose family members because of you speaking up. I've lost a sister, several brothers, and everything, but it's no love lost to me. When they cannot support me, when they want to support the people who were the perpetrators of the sexual abuse and all. I do not want anybody like that in my life, and I'm sure there's a lot of friends and stuff who that's happened to that they don't want them in their lives either. The different people, that's family members who do not speak up, who actually come down and ridicule. And I want to pat everybody on the back and say thank you for getting your stories out there and being an advocate against this because your voice matters and you matter. What was done to you and to your family members or all other kids, we do not deserve it. They do not deserve it. The most important step to keeping children safe is prevention. There are key things we can teach our children that may reduce the chances that will fall prey to a sexual predator. What we teach our kids can reduce their risk for sexual abuse. Parents and child health experts are working together to find new ways of preventing childhood sexual abuse. One promising approach is teaching children about body autonomy, the idea that all people have the right to govern what happens to their own bodies. Yeah, we got it right, but like I said, what do you do when they don't listen to you? When they call you a liar? When these people in power don't go ahead and reprimand the people? They're not protecting a child. Instead, they're quieting them, and it's almost like, and they're very much a part of it. Then, when they're not protecting a child, they're just as responsible as the predator who did the acts when they're covering for them and protecting them. What do we do in that, y'all? What do we do that? When we face that kind of thing. We had the same kind of problem with the Gracie and Grant Solomon case. I don't know if y'all remember that case. Well, Gracie was messed with by her daddy, and the church and all that was involved, and they even let the daddy keep coming over there and taking pictures of the girls in PE. And then he would get on social media and try to talk to other people. And the daddy was not even supposed to be able to come to the school to get Gracie, and yet they'd let him have her. When and that's a school similar to a lot of people that's having a lot of trouble today. They're just covering their butts and not doing anything to protect our children. Our children are a great commodity. For example, you can teach them real names of the body parts, emphasizing that it's natural and healthy to talk about all areas of their bodies. Who can look or touch their private parts and under what conditions, like doctors to make sure that you are healthy. It's fine to say no to anyone, including adults, if they don't want to be touched or hugged. That some secrets, like plans for a surprise birthday party, are safe to keep, but other secrets should always be shared by a trusted. Y'all know how many times that you have family members come over there, and the kid might not want to go over there and hug them, right? Get over there and hug that person. They want to get a hug from you. We forced our kids to go over there and hug a person. Back when I was, but now today it's like I am so proud of the ones that's standing up. That sees like, okay, we don't have to force that. We don't have to be in the good graces. We don't care if it hurts somebody's feelings, such as if a kid does not feel safe and want to hug per said person. That's okay. It's their body. If they don't want it touched by a certain person, they don't have to have it touched by a certain person. We respect our kids. 7 simple steps for teaching your child body. Not sure where to start. They have also not just right here this protect kids from abuse. They're look at the website. My body is my body, and they got a teaching song as well. And you can continue and get trained in my body is my body, and learn that song. Your child needs to know it's safe for them to tell you anything, even if it's strange or scary. Always affirm that you believe your child and will do everything you can to protect them from harm. Help them to understand that they will not be in trouble for telling you about information that should not be kept secret. Empower them to tell another trusted adult if they are too uncomfortable telling you. How do we define child sexual abuse? Child sexual abuse happens when a child or teen under 18 is involved in sexual activity that violates the laws or social taboos of society and that they do not fully understand, are unable to give consent to, are forced, manipulated, or coerced into participating in. Childhood sexual abuse can affect how people think, act, and feel throughout their entire lives. Research links early sexual abuse with serious health risks in adulthood, ranging from heart disease, obesity, cancer, to depression, PTSD, substance use, and more. What you need to keep in mind about child sexual abuse, it is widespread. About 1 in every 4 female children and 1 in every 13 male children in the United States will experience some form of child sexual abuse. The boys are much less likely to tell. I believe that number is even higher. Like it's like 1 in what, 4 also, maybe? Because you're not, the boys let them feel dirty. They start questioning themselves. Am I gay? They start questioning their sexuality and as well when all this is done. And it's not the child's fault. They may be family members, relatives, friends, teachers, coaches, babysitters, and other grown-ups in positions of power or authority, and who are trusted by the child and caregiver. Children frequently who will not disclose their abuse, often for prolonged periods of time. When children do tell, it's not parents that they relay this information to. That can be particularly difficult for parents, and why helping children to identify other safe adults in their life is the key. After being sexually abused, many children will not show any signs that they have been harmed. They may also initiate ongoing contact with their abuser. I recently watched a video where this guy was alone with living at a place where this guy had a lot of other kids and raising them. CPS was delivered to him, and he was essaying them. And this guy said, "Yeah, he was essaying them, but the kid was not hurt." How could you say the kid was not hurt? Excuse me. When you're sexually abusing these kids, you might not think that they're doing okay. He said, "Well, he was smiling and that kind of stuff." But y'all got to realize, smiling, you put up a fake smile sometimes. That's a mask. We mask our feelings and our emotions a lot of times because we don't want more people coming down on us worse than what already is. Signs of stress in children can be an indicator of sexual abuse. For example, they might withdraw from family and friends, struggle at school, show anger and aggression, suffer from nightmares or extreme fears, avoid certain adults, have symptoms of sexually transmitted infections. Excuse me. When caregivers identify such signs, this represents a good opportunity to ask children if anything is going on in their life that is bothering them. Sexual abuse can happen more than once. It might go on for months or years. Children who have been previously sexually abused are also at risk for future assault events. Abusers frequently do not use physical force. They are most likely to use words and ideas to engage a child. They often warn their victims not to tell anyone, which might make it even more difficult for a child to report what happened. If you have any question about ways to keep your child safe from harm, including sexual talk, talk with your pediatrician. On here, there's even places where you can go where sexual behaviors, young children, what's normal, what's not, child abuse, neglect, what parents need to know, fast facts on preventing child sexual abuse, what is a child abuse pediatrician, parenting after trauma, understanding your child's need, preventing abuse and youth sports and organized activities. But one day I'm going to put in here about the facts of grooming because a lot of times they groom our kids. I want to thank y'all so much, and y'all have a wonderful day. Get the word out. Your life matters. Children matter. They're precious commodities. Lots of love. thoughts and prayers for everyone. We're standing with you. The people that want to tell their stories, or people that we we don't even know that has a story. No matter what, we're here for you. God bless you. Goodbye.